Let's take a look at networks for leaders. A major feature of communication by leaders is to rely on networks of contacts both in person and electronically. Without being connected to other people, leaders would find it almost impossible to carry out their various roles. With networks, leaders have more impact because they influence more people. Many of these contacts are within the organization, but many are also external, such as communicating with a customer, supplier, or union official. Organizational leaders use face to face as well as social media networks to communicate, and they may use both to communicate with the same person in the same day. Developing networks of live interpersonal contacts remains an essential method for a leader building relationships, motivating others, and attaining collaboration. A major reason that face to face communication networks are vital is that leaders achieve more engagement and credibility when they participate in genuine conversation with the subordinate and coworker. Various types of leadership networks have been identified, with four of these types being particularly relevant. First is the peer leadership network, that is a system of social ties among leaders who are connected through shared interests in work. Members of the leaders network are perceived as providing resources that can be trusted. The operational network is aimed at doing one's assigned task more effectively. It involves cultivating stronger relationships with coworkers whose membership in the network is clear. Personal networks engage cooperative people from outside the organization in a person's effort to develop personally and advance. Strategic networks focus on networking on attaining business goals directly. At this level, the manager creates a network that will help provide a fresh perspective and identify new opportunities for the company. The relationships among the different actors in the network can be broadly classified into two major types: strong versus weak ties, and direct versus indirect ties. An acquaintance would be a weak tie, whereas a close friend would be a strong tie. Strengths of ties would ordinarily be measured by frequency of contact, yet some contact could be relatively superficial and others might be more emotional and intimate. Direct versus indirect ties relate to whether you're directly connected to a person because of a contact you developed or indirectly, such as a friend of a friend. Recent observations suggest that chat is becoming the backbone of many business organizations, bringing together both people and multiple software programs. Chat has been widely used as a form of customer support for many years, with many customers preferring to exchange written messages rather than engaging in conversation with a customer service or tech support representative. Chat can be both immediate and synchronous, identical to a phone call or physical meeting, or asynchronous like an email. The leadership communication angle to chat is that the leader can quickly connect with several group members at the same time and receive feedback and input in the amount of time it takes to compose a sentence. Chat can also be used as a huddle to prepare for the workday. The leader can play a key role by making suggestions about overcoming impediments to communication. Information about communicating persuasively and effectively is extensive. Here, we focus on suggestions for creating the high impact communication that contributes to effective leadership. Effective communication is frequently a criterion for being promoted to a leadership position. Suggestions for becoming an inspirational and emotion provoking communicator include speaking and writing and nonverbal communication. There are a variety of helpful suggestions for dynamic and persuasive oral and written communication. Attempts at persuasion, including inspirational speaking and writing, begin with the credibility of the message sender. If the speaker is perceived as highly credible, the attempt at persuasive communication is more likely to be successful. An axiom of persuasive communication is that the speaker must adapt the message to the listener's interests and motivations. A leader is constrained by the willingness of group members to take action on his or her suggestions and initiatives. As a consequence, the leader must explain to group members how they can benefit from what he or she proposes. Certain words used in the proper context give power and force to your speech. Used comfortably, naturally, and sincerely, these words will project the image of self confidence in a person that leadership ability or potential exists. Although storytelling is an ancient art, it is more in trendy than ever before as a method for leaders to influence and inspire others. A carefully chosen anecdote is useful in persuading group members about the importance of organizational values. You'll be more persuasive if you support your spoken and written presentations with solid data. One approach to obtaining data is to collect them yourself, for example, by conducting an online survey of your customers or group members. Use colorful, powerful words to enhance the perception that you're self confident and have leadership quality. Business and government executives and professionals make frequent use of jargon. Sometimes, jargon words and phrases are chosen to help establish rapport with the receiver. Business leaders characteristically write easy to read, well organized messages both in email and in more formal reports. Both writing and speaking are more persuasive when key ideas are placed at the beginning of the message. A major part of being persuasive involves choosing a correct linguistic style, a person's characteristic speaking pattern. Persuasion is a major form of influence, and managers must often influence people for whom they have no formal responsibility. The seven principles described next have accompanying tactics that can be used to supplement the other approaches to persuasion. As a leader, you have a better chance of influencing group members who like you. Emphasizing similarities and offering genuine praise are two of the most reliable techniques for getting another person to like you. Managers can often influence group members to behave in a particular way by serving as a model of trust, good ethics, or strong commitment to company goals. In short, give what you want to receive. People follow the lead of similar others. If you as the leader want to influence a group to convert a new procedure, ask a believer to speak up in a meeting or send her his or her statement in support. People need to feel committed to what you want them to do. After people take a stand or go on the record in favor of a position, they prefer to stay with that commitment. People defer to experts. The action plan here is to make constituents aware of your expertise to enhance the probability that your plan will persuade them. People want more of what they can have less of. An application of this principle is that the leader can persuade group members to act in a particular direction if the members believe that the resource at issue is shrinking rapidly. Persuasion is likely to be more effective when you get others to agree with a message before it's even sent. A practical approach is the persuasion to solicit other people's advice before proposing a key initiative. The developer of these principles explains that they should be applied in combination to multiply their impact. Another principle of persuasion of potential use to leaders is altercasting, in which you characterize another person as a certain type of person to encourage him or her to behave in a desired manner. The approach can work as persuasion or influence tactic because many people want to rise to the occasion. Effective leaders are masterful, nonverbal, as well as verbal communicators. Nonverbal communication is important because leadership involves emotion, which words alone cannot communicate convincingly. A major component of the emotional impact of a message is communicated nonverbally. A self confident leader not only speaks and writes with assurance, but also projects confidence through body position, gestures, and manner of speech. A general approach to using nonverbal behavior that projects confidence is to have a goal of appearing self confident and powerful. This type of auto-suggestion makes many of the behaviors seem automatic. Your external image also plays an important role in communicating messages to others. People pay more respect and grant more privileges to those they perceive as being well dressed and neatly groomed. What constitutes a self confident external image is often influenced by organizational culture. Video conferencing places extra demands on the nonverbal communication skills of leaders, managers, and other participants. An effective way of sharpening your telepresence skills is to be videotaped several times. Make adjustments for anything you don't like and repeat what you do like. Feedback on your behavior from another observer can be quite helpful. Listening is a fundamental management and leadership skill. Listening provides the opportunity for dialogue and conversation in which people understand each other better by taking turns having their point of view understood. For a leader to support and encourage a subordinate, active listening is required. Also, effective leader member exchanges require that each party listen to one another. Leaders cannot identify problems unless they listen carefully to group members. Before making changes, such as deciding on new policies or developing strategy, effective leaders often spend time listening to stakeholders such as employees, customers, and suppliers. An effective approach to developing good listening habits is to remember to ask questions and then listen to the answers. Three major impediments face the leader who wants to be an effective listener. First, the leader is often so overloaded with responsibilities that it's difficult to take the time to carefully listen to subordinates. Second is the speed difference between speaking and listening. Third, multitasking is a major deterrent to listening carefully to subordinates because the leader who is involved in another task at the moment, such as glancing at a tablet computer, is not paying full attention to the speaker. Three leadership aspects of listening include showing respect, listening to problems, and making the rounds. Another communication challenging facing leaders is overcoming communication barriers created by working with people from different cultures. Leaders typically communicate with people from other countries and with a more diverse group of people than their own country alone. Because of this workplace diversity, leaders who can manage a multicultural and cross-cultural workforce are in strong demand. Here, we give some guidelines for overcoming a variety of cross-cultural communication barriers. Be sensitive to the fact that cross-cultural communication barriers exist. When communicating with a person of a different cultural background, solicit feedback to minimize cross-cultural barriers. Challenge yourself and your own cultural assumptions. The assumptions we make about cultural groups can create communication barriers. Show respect for all workers. The same behavior that promotes good cross-cultural relations in general helps overcome communication barriers. Use straightforward language and speak slowly and clearly. When working with people who do not speak your language fluently, speak in easy-to-understand manner. When the situation is appropriate, speak in the language of the people from another culture. Americans who can speak another language are at a competitive advantage when dealing with business people who speak that language. Observe cross-cultural differences in etiquette. Violating rules of etiquette without explanation can erect immediate communication barriers. Do not be diverted by style, accent, grammar, or personal appearance. Although these factors are all related to business success, they are difficult to interpret when judging a person from another culture. Be sensitive to differences in nonverbal communication. A person from another culture may misinterpret nonverbal signals. Be attentive to individual differences in appearance. A major cross-cultural insult is to confuse the identity of people because they are members of the same race or ethnic group. Leaders and managers spend considerable time resolving conflicts and negotiating. A frequent estimate is that they devote about 20% of their time to dealing with conflict. Departmental competition is a challenge for companies of all sizes, often resulting in product delays, increased costs, and dwindling market shares as departments fight each other for domination behind the scenes. Until conflict between or among the groups is resolved, collaboration is unlikely. Another type of intergroup conflict leaders might face is dealing with heavy demands from a large employee group, such as employees uniting to complain about working conditions. A frequent conflict of this type is a group of workers demanding a higher minimum wage, particularly at a large discount retailer or fast food chain recently. Leaders are sometimes involved in conflict with groups outside their organization. Conflict resolution is more of a study of managerial skills than leadership because it has to do more with establishing equilibrium than with helping the firm or organization unit reach new heights. It is helpful to understand conflict resolution styles and negotiating and bargaining skills. A widely accepted finding is that there are 5 major styles of conflict management: competitive, accommodative, sharing, collaborative, and avoidant. Each style is based on a combination of satisfying one's own concerns, assertiveness, and satisfying the concerns of others, cooperativeness. The cooperative style is the desire to achieve one's own goals at the expense of the other party or to dominate. A person with a competitive orientation is likely to engage in win-lose power struggles. The accommodative style favors appeasement or satisfying the other's concerns without taking care of one's own. People with this orientation may be generous or self-sacrificing just to maintain a relationship. The sharing style is halfway between domination and appeasement. The term splitting the difference reflects this orientation, in which sharers prefer moderate but incomplete satisfaction for both parties. In contrast to the other styles, the collaborative style reflects a desire to fully satisfy the desires of both parties. When collaborative approaches to resolving conflict are used, the relationships among the parties are built on and improved. It is based on the underlying philosophy of the win-win approach to conflict resolution, the belief that after conflict has been resolved, both sides should gain something of value. Avoiders combine a lack of cooperation and unassertiveness. They are indifferent to the concerns of either party. The person may actually be withdrawing from the conflict or be relying upon fate. A variable influencing how much conflict a leader has to resolve is his or her own personality. Negotiating and bargaining is a basic leadership role. Few leaders have enough formal power to get everything they want without negotiation. Situations call for negotiation, including arriving at a price for purchasing another company or satisfying worker demands. The link between negotiating and bargaining is that conflicts can be considered situations that call for negotiating and bargaining or conferring with another person to resolve a problem. At first, the demands of the two parties may seem incompatible, but through negotiation, a salary may emerge that satisfies both parties. These approaches to negotiation emphasize a strategy of integration or collaboration. Experiments suggest that negotiators who feel anxious tend to make weaker offers first and are more likely to exit negotiation early. To minimize being and looking anxious during negotiation, train, practice, and rehearse. Visualize how you'll conduct yourself during the negotiation and practice making some of your key statements. An advanced negotiating technique is to begin by soliciting the other person or group's point of view. You can use this information to shape the objectives of your negotiation and figure out how you'll be able to attain them. Most people believe that compromise and allowing room for negotiation include bargaining with an extreme demand or offer. But a plausible demand is better because it reflects good faith bargaining. Rather than clinging to specific negotiation points, one should keep overall interests in mind and try to satisfy them. The true objective of negotiation is to satisfy the underlying interests of both sides. A challenge facing the multicultural leader is how to negotiate successfully with people from other cultures. There are also many other differences in negotiation styles and techniques across cultures. Considerable study and practice is therefore required to negotiate effectively in another culture. As with most other leadership situations, you want to conduct yourself in a dignified way and not attempt to maximize gain for yourself and minimize gain for the other side. Negotiating and bargaining, as with any other leadership and management skill, require conceptual knowledge and practice.